Welcome back to Giants Mania. I have not talked to you guys in a long time. It's been a minute, as the kids will say, but there really hasn't been much to talk about recently. There's been a couple of minor things. I think the biggest thing that got Giants fans talking was the Bleacher Report article calling Saquon Barkley's pick the worst first-round pick of the past decade. Which, I don't really agree with that. I get it. I think it was the way I would put this is it wasn't the worst first round pick because this is a team that has drafted Eric Flowers and Eli Apple in the same decade. But the Saquon pick was probably the biggest lack of self-awareness pick of the decade. I will say that. So I don't want to make a whole video about that. We've talked about the Saquon stuff ad nauseum at this point. But anyway, Joe Judge was on a podcast recently called Flying Coach with Peter Schrager and Sean McVay. And Joe Judge, we've heard him talk before plenty of times, of course. You know, the introductory press conference was awesome. We heard him talk after games and say all the right things. But Joe Judge does a lot of coach speak, as they say, where it's pretty much saying what you have to say, but not saying too much. But in this podcast in particular, this was the most open I've seen Joe Judge. Joe Judge was in like that storytelling type mode and being pretty open and honest for, as compared to what he has been in the past. So I listened to it on my ride home yesterday. It's probably like an hour long, I would say, if you take out the ads. So if you have an hour of your time and you want to check this out, go ahead and search Flying Coach. I'm sure it's on all podcast, platforms. Go ahead and give it a listen. It was a good listen in my opinion. But yeah, Joe Judge talked to them for an hour, said a lot of interesting and good things. And, as a Giants fan, I try not to tell people how to root for your team, of course, but how could you not love Joe Judge? I mean, this is a guy that puts the work in. Like, Joe Judge grinds. I know some people say like, oh, I'm a grinder, blah, blah, blah. But this guy actually grinds. Like, he was talking about how he'll be on family vacation and he'll wake up at 6 and then like research and do his work from 6 to 12 and then do family stuff after that. Like, this guy is so dedicated to his job. It's insane. So I'm happy he's the guy that's coaching this team, and I hope he's here for a very long time. And as I've said last year, I'll say it again. If this guy gets the talent, he will one day be a winning coach in this league. They have a more talented team this year, so hopefully this 2021 season we do get to see the wins, and hopefully this team is a playoff team. But with that said, we'll go over some of the interesting stuff he said. I wrote down some bullet points, and I'll touch on those. But hopefully you guys enjoy this video, and let's get into it. So I touched on this briefly before, but Judge talked about the dedication and the grind of being a head coach, and he basically said, for whatever work you want to do, find something you love, and if you aren't tired yourself from doing it and you don't have bags under your eyes and stuff like that, you're not working hard enough, basically, is what he was saying. And Joe Judge, it seems like he doesn't sleep, honestly, because he even mentioned in the interview that there have been times where he'll wake up in the middle of the night and have an idea and then jot it down. Like, this guy just like lives, breathes, eats, sleeps football. And as a fan, you have to love that, of course. So he talked about the grind of being a head coach, and he definitely is, some people aren't cut out for the job. This guy is definitely cut out for the job. So this was a funny one. He talked about his interviews for the job with Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. So the Saban one, I don't know what year this was. I don't know, 2008, maybe something around there. I have no idea. But the Saban interview he went into the interview and he was just talking. He was saying they were talking ball, as Joe Judge likes to say, but they were just doing stuff on a whiteboard and talking about like punt formations and stuff like that. And Saban walks out of the room for 25 minutes, he said, and Joe Judge was just standing there with I guess the marker in his hand for 25 minutes and didn't know what to do. And he didn't know if this was a psychological game or whatever it was. And Joe Judge, he decides not to sit down. He's like, you know what? I'm standing here. I'm just going to wait for him to come back. So Nick Saban comes back 25 minutes later. If you think about that, it's a very long time to just stand there at a whiteboard 25 minutes and do nothing. But so Saban comes back with this other guy, and Joe Judge did not even know who the other guy is, still doesn't know. But they come back, they start making fun of what he was wearing or something like that. And, then all of a sudden they started talking about football and they got into it. But that was weird to have a guy just talk about, or basically just leave you for 25 minutes and come back with another guy, start making fun of your wardrobe, and then get into it. It was a very weird story, but of course he got the job there. Then the Bill Belichick one. This one was interesting because I think the way I understood it was Joe Judge was getting a promotion with Alabama to be a coordinator that same offseason. And he was getting calls about the Patriots job, and he said I already committed to this Alabama coordinator job. I'm good. And then someone else basically made him go to New England. I forget the guy's name, but someone made him go to New England and go to the interview. And of course, Joe Judge, didn't want to break a promise, I guess you can say, with Nick Saban and basically leave for another job. So Joe Judge didn't want to go, but the guy was like, hey, just go to New England, see if you like it there. If you don't like it, then hey, at least you meet someone new. Bill Belichick is a pretty important name, of course, in football. So at least you go there and make a name for yourself and get a connection. So Joe Judge goes there, and the way he talked about the interview was he sits down with Belichick. Now, the way I picture it is Belichick's at a desk, and then Judge is on the other side. And he says in the middle of their conversation, Bill Belichick takes his shirt off. So just imagine like I'm talking and all of a sudden taking the shirt off. He says Bill Belichick takes his shirt off, and then like eventually he puts a new shirt on, leaves the room as Joe Judge is like talking, then comes back with a new pair of pants on. And Joe Judge was like, all right, I don't know if this is another psychological game or whatever, but Joe Judge is like, hey, I've been through this before with Nick Saban. This is not going to shake me. But apparently Bill Belichick had to talk at like some banquet or something after, so that's why he was changing in the middle of the interview, and the guy just had no time on his hands. But just imagine, like, I know there's been some crazy interviews out there for some of you guys probably even, but like just imagine like the person interviewing you just takes his shirt off in the middle of the interview. So that was pretty funny, but of course he got the job there and worked in New England for a while. And he did mention, Joe Judge, that being a coach in New England was the most fun 8 years he's had as a coach. Now, people have criticized the Patriot way before and saying like, oh, it's not fun, it's too hard, they're not treating these guys like humans, and it's too difficult of an environment. And Joe Judge basically said winning is not easy, and it's 100% true. And there was a story he told about Julian Edelman, who he said is one of his, I don't know if he said he's the most favorite player he's coached, but one of the most favorite players he's coached. And in 2018, when Edelman came back from his, I think it was 2018, 17 or 18, whatever year it was, but Edelman came back from that 4-game PED suspension. And he wrote down on the whiteboard that everyone sees when they walk in, winning is fun. To kind of just like, make light of the situation that people are saying, oh, the Patriot way is nonsense and it's too hard. So he writes down winning is fun. And I feel like that team really just like really bought into that. And I think they won a Super Bowl later that year, 2018. They beat the Rams, I believe that. Was it 2019, 2018? I forget. I think they won the Super Bowl that year. I'm pretty sure at least. Or it was 2019. I think it was 2019 now. No, it was 2018. I just looked up because 2019 was the Chiefs, 2018 was the Patriots. All right, so that same season, they, after the whole winning is fun thing was written down on the board, they went out and won the Super Bowl. So, yeah, Joe Judge realizes that winning is not easy. You're not going to put in half-ass efforts and be a great football team. And Judge mentioned that, like, there's only 32 head coaches. They pay us handsomely, and you better expect I'm going to work my butt off and give these fans and the players the best they deserve. So I did like hearing that, of course. He talked about his Birmingham Southern experience. I don't even know what Birmingham Southern is. It's a D3 school, I guess. And Joe Judge talked about like doing like these jobs for them, like lining up the football field. And I think he did some stuff with the uniforms and basically had to work his way all the way from the bottom to be an NFL head coach. So like, some people have that family connection. I think Sean McVay even said he kind of felt guilty because he had that connection of being an NFL head coach. And, it was kind of easy for him as compared to somebody like a Joe Judge. But Judge really did start from the bottom. He had to work his way up from Birmingham Southern D3 football, doing all these odd jobs for them, and work his way up to an NFL coach. So you do admire that, of course. He basically had his reassurance with Daniel Jones and reassured that he loves working with Daniel Jones. And, people have questioned before, is Daniel Jones your quarterback? And I remember last summer, it was a big topic of conversation. Like Joe Judge would refuse to mention Daniel Jones' name, but Judge even mentioned that without them asking. He was like, look, last year, I didn't even know who Daniel Jones was. I wasn't going to speak on him without knowing him first. So that's why Joe Judge did not mention Daniel Jones as the starting quarterback. Like, these beat writers would ask Joe Judge last year at this time, who's your starting quarterback? And then Judge would be like, well, we have to go to training camp and preseason and find out. And then people were like, come on, just say that Daniel Jones is your starter. But I think genuinely he didn't really know who Daniel Jones was. He wanted to see him first, but of course, eventually he was the starter. But he did mention how he loves working with Daniel Jones, how he has a great work ethic, a great teammate. So, it's pretty much no surprise. You expected to see that. I don't know if it was McVay or Schrager, but one of them asked, like, do you have any regrets about last year? And he did bring up a specific play a fourth down play in week 3 against the San Francisco 49ers. That was the game where the Giants got blown out by the Niners' second and third string guys. It was, I don't know what the score was, 33-9 or something. But I have the situation up here. It was 23-9 49ers, 52 seconds left in the third quarter. Now, the Giants were on their own 30, which is why he kind of regressed this decision. And the Giants go for it. It was a QB sneak. He comes up short, but the Giants were down by 14 points late in the third quarter, and there's only 1 yard to go. I understand, you want to be aggressive, and Joe Judge said, "I'll never apologize for being aggressive," but Daniel Jones went for the quarterback sneak. They did not get it. The Niners came down, and Jeff Wilson had that touchdown where nobody touched him, like the play later. So, I don't blame Joe Judge for it, but he said that was a regret of his. And they also asked Joe Judge about the Week 17 Washington versus Philadelphia game, how they benched Jalen Hurts for Nate Sudfeld. But Joe Judge had the right answer of, we could have handled business the first 17 weeks. I'm not going to blame somebody else. So I like that answer. I think people had too much of this loser mentality of, oh, we deserved the playoffs because we were 6-10 and they screwed us. And it's like, no, the Eagles... I know I have plenty of debates with people about tanking. I think the Eagles did the right thing. I mean, you may hate me for it, but they went from 9 in the draft to 6 in the draft. They got an extra first round pick out of it with the trade back. So I think they made out okay with that one. If we went over the Edelman story last year, the Daniel Jones thing, he also mentioned how he had a lot of fun last year despite starting 0-5 and being 1-7 at one point. And he basically said the guys did a great job of buying in despite getting off to a bad start. And they easily could have quit, he said, because they were practicing outside in the rain and it was cold and it was crappy and everything going on in the world with COVID. And he said these guys never quit. They kept fighting, and the Giants got better towards the end of the season. I think they went 5-3 their final 8 games. I know a lot of it came against backup quarterbacks and whatnot, but the Seattle win was very impressive. The Giants definitely did a good job of just staying together as a team last year. And I give Joe Judge a lot of credit for that, because I feel like under previous coaches, whether it was Shurmur, the Giants never quit on Shurmur, but some people I feel like weren't really big fans of him, but especially McAdoo, they would quit in that situation. So I give Joe Judge a lot of credit for keeping those guys together and basically keep them going even throughout a tough season the first half of the year. So that's pretty much what stuck out to me. I could have missed some things, so if I did, let me know in the comments if you listened to it already, but it was pretty much his journey to making it from the bottom to the top and being an NFL head coach. A lot of it was his journey to getting to that spot, the interviews with the Patriots and Nick Saban at Alabama. So that's pretty much it. They talked a little bit about the Giants last year. Sean McVay said the Giants are going to be a good team in his opinion. They're very fundamentally sound, which is something you definitely can expect when Joe Judge is your head coach. But I will once again say, as a Giants fan, I am very thankful that Joe Judge, the franchise is in Joe Judge's hands. I trust that guy. I know he's going to put the work in. I know that the Giants, talent-wise, don't have a top 5 roster in football, probably not even top 10, but they're somewhere league average right now. And if Joe Judge really gets these guys to buy in and Daniel Jones takes a big step and the offensive line isn't bad, maybe this is the year. It's exciting because the last few years especially, I don't know about you guys, I know some people have high expectations for every year. I didn't have the highest expectations the past few years, some more than others. I expected 8-8 in 2018 and then 7-9, then 6-10 last year. So my expectations were not all that high. But now this year I expect the playoffs. And if we don't get that, it will be disappointing. But at least with Joe Judge, you know that this franchise is going in the right direction. I will say that. I do believe, and some people disagree on this, I think Joe Judge has a lot to say in the personnel moves that have gone on here since 2020 when he's came in. I mean, look at Gettleman. Gettleman traded back for the first time in his 8 or 9 years of being a GM. And this is the second year of Joe Judge. So, I mean, it's not really a coincidence, in my opinion, that this stuff happens, and the philosophy of the team changed a lot. They are now building through their secondary instead of building through their defensive line. I know they got Leonard Williams last year, or now it's back when Gettleman was there, actually, so not even. But there's a lot of change in philosophy since Joe Judge has came in here. So if you kind of look up and down the roster of what positions they're attacking and the way they traded back in the draft multiple times this year, it's got a lot of Joe Judge written on it. So I could be wrong, but that's the way I think about it. But anyway, that'll do it for this video. I don't know what videos are coming out in the future on this channel. I honestly have no idea, but I'll find stuff to talk about. There's a lot of predictions and hot take stuff to talk about. Maybe some player. I won't do player previews because that will take way too long, but I might do position group previews and talk about what I expect from the specific players there. We'll have the schedule breakdown, doing wins and losses, which I know some people don't like because sometimes I give the Giants too many losses. I'll try not to this year. But yeah, I'll have some videos out. Let me know in the comments if you have any video ideas for this channel in the future. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Leave a like and subscribe if you did, and I'll talk to you guys next time.